Welcome back to the 10-foot foam kayak. Gonna put some burlap on here, and normally I use glue, but I thought I'd do something different. And I was at Home Depot and they had this off-brand paint here that was in the oops section, but it was for free. Girl asked me, "You want some free paint on it?" Yeah, sure. How bad can it be? So I thought I'd use this and see how well it works. Kind of an experiment. I mean, it dries pretty fast, as most paints dry, I guess. Put it on there kind of heavy. I was kind of hoping it was just, I was thinking I'll use the glue, and this color will come out through the glue, but that's alright. We can always paint it. It could be any color we want it to be, and this will be a good base for camo. This is brick and mason paint. So it should, it should be pretty good stuff. Other than being not a very quality company. Oh yeah, and this, you can see right here, there's a sticker that came off my fabric on burlap. It was $2.97 a yard. I like the fiberglass boat that I built, but the problem is, unless you're willing to put that fiberglass on there a 1/4 inch thick, every time you bump it, it's got a crack or fracture. So every time you have a fracture, you're gonna have fiberglass shards, splinters. And I didn't put it on a 1/4 inch thick, but it was good enough to where if you treat it with, treat it with respect, it's not gonna have any issues. But I don't ever keep any of this stuff very long because I get rid of it so I can build a new project. And I enjoy doing projects because I really couldn't afford to do these as a kid. If you got lumps in this, wait for it to dry. Once it dries, just cut it out. And keep fretting with it and trying to move this and wiggle that. So, oh yeah, I guess I didn't tell you, but this gallon of paint here, oh yeah, I did. The girl said, "You want a free gallon of paint?" I thought, man, what's the catch? And evidently they just couldn't sell it. I could see probably why nobody would want this particular brand, because it's very thin. And I can't think of any reason for it to be that thin. It's just a lot more work for the painter. got to You need to wet down the foam before you put this on, otherwise it's gonna just lift up the fabric. So I just put it over a dry spot there thinking, well, let's see how that turns out. I think the glue works a lot better. I will use this since it was free, and if I need to, I'll go back over it with glue. But it's a possibility this might work out okay, and then we just put a couple more coats of paint on it from a real paint company. See right here, where this sticks up like this, I'll let that dry and come back tomorrow and cut it with a razor blade at an angle, and then put my top coat on it and overlap it. I do recommend you overlap your seams where it meets up. Makes for a stronger bond, because after all, this is a foam boat built about like the same way they build boogie boards. So pretty much it's your strength comes from the sum of all the parts. And you can use a paint tray if you want to. I may have put too much paint here, but I'll roll it around so it soaks into the fabric. I'm not really worried about having too much on it. I mean, what I'll have to do is I just have to cut some more fabric and do the sides or another part in here so I can use up that paint. Just don't sweat it, because you know, after all, it's a homemade boat. Yeah, I think the glue is a lot better than this stuff. Because it has the glue has a little bit more surface tension to it. But like I said, nothing else. It's could be a good first coat. Oh, piece of sawdust right there. I'm assuming you call it dust from sawing foam. You can call it sawdust even though it's not wood. It's dust from sawing. When I do the bottom of the boat, I think I'll do that and time lapse. These boats are pretty easy to build, pretty quick to build, and used to be cheap before the new pricing, this wonderful new pricing of things. But, you know, like I said, this is not about saving money. This is pretty much about if you want a project or you want to do this with your, you know, your kid to teach him something and he can't just have things right away. You got to work for him. It's a good project. Good project. I got a couple of nephews who are supposed to come and stay with me so I can teach them how to build one of these boats. And they can build it however they want. When their friends go, hey, where'd you get a boat? Like that. They can say, I built it. Alright, so what I want to do here is I want to put me a strip across the seat to kind of give a little extra here. It looks like to me you should cut that, the hem off of it, because it appears that the hem just doesn't want to pay attention under. I'll just take that hem and cut it off and throw that away. Set this aside. Yeah, not using the hem anymore. More scraps. Put a little bit of a dip right here and right there for when you're sitting there. That way you don't have this, even though the edge is rounded, it still has pressure against the back of your thighs. And the object, when you go fishing, to be as comfortable as you can so you can be happy as you can. Now, I didn't final sand this with the 80 grit paper like I was talking about. I thought, you know what? Everybody always runs that wallpaper. It's called a paper tiger. They always run that paper tiger over to rough it up. And I thought, I'll just leave it rough instead of sanding it down and roughing it back up. Because this, once this burlap gets it gets dry, or the paint gets dry from you put it on a burlap, you can run a sander over this stuff. I say run a sander, you know, palm sander over it, and sand it a couple of times, and then come back and throw some more paint on it. The more times you do that, the smoother it'll get. In case you're worried about, you know, you want it to look really slick. As slick as you can get a foam and fabric boat. Now I didn't put a whole lot of attachment points in here. I'm not worried about an anchor trolley. Like I said, it's going to be used out on the ranch, and ranch hands will be using it. I don't want somebody to tie something to it. It's just not a good idea. You make it too technical for a ranch, and the guys out there are just rough on things. So keep it simple. Keep it simple. Let's see. And these are enough, some pad eyes. And the pad eyes are plastic. I got those for about 20 cents a piece when I bought a whole box of them last year for my other kayak builds. Cut it just below the curve so I don't have to worry about trying to razor blade it off. Save myself some work.